Awesome. Cool. So, can you just remind me, like your role and MMR, just so I am familiar?
Yeah, so 4K MMR carry player used to be 4.7. I'm sitting at like 4.1 right. I've
Awesome.
lost like a ton of MMR since like 723. I'm kind of like a farming oriented guy.
Okay.
Been a couple bad patches for farmers, I think, but this one should be better.
hmm
But I'm still losing. I think there's like a couple specific things that I think are wrong with my gameplay.
hmm I've got the first.
Specifically,
You gone? Sorry, I've got the first replay, so I'm uploading it now. You should be able to see.
yeah,
Cool. Cool. Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
see.
Go on. What are you gonna say?
So firstly, I'm not sure how applicable this one will be to this game, but with laning, I realized that I've been using creep aggro in a really strange way, particularly on melee heroes, and
hmm
that I am defensively creep aggroing constantly, even in lanes where I'm supposed to be hitting the other guy.
Yeah.
And then, like, I am still hitting him, and I think I'm therefore taking a ton of damage that I shouldn't be
hmm
from creep waves, like, particularly in early levels.
hmm
Um, and then I don't know, just generally, I think laning has always been the weakest part of my game. And then mid game, I'm I'm doing something weird with my farming patterns where like I am getting to waves like I think like 15 to 30 seconds late where I should be pushing some area of the map out and I'm
hmm
just like neglecting it. And I don't know why that's happening because I don't know, I stare at my fucking map, I'm not a
Yeah, no, that's
like
fun. Yeah, we can identify like some aspects and stuff. I mean, like going straight forward into laning matchups in terms of like focusing on the laning stage. Like every lane, every game is going to be different because you're going to be either playing a different hero and you're most likely going to be laning against
absolutely.
something different as well. So in this matchup, I think you're playing Luna versus a Timbersaw.
Yeah.
So just give me like a brief like your understanding of like how like I say Luna versus Timber matchup will go if you're in the safe lane versus a Timbersaw.
Sure. So Luna versus Timber, like Lion depending on if he has a support there or not, can put some pressure on him early.
hmm
But unless I invest heavily into Lucent Beam, what's going to end up happening is we both sort of get farmed. I
hmm
should try and get, as many denies as possible. But I
hmm
should just really focus on like getting my Wraith Bands, getting the hell out of there and getting really far.
Yep, no, that sounds perfect. That sounds like the mindset to play for sure. I mean, like
Yeah.
Timbersaw is one of those heroes that you simply can't really contest unless you have like heavy commitment from your team to really try and like mess with him. You're gonna struggle, and you just the best way you can do is just rotating out of the lane. And a hero like Luna as well, you farm so incredibly fast in the jungle anyway, so you don't need to worry too much that you're kind of forfeiting a lane up to Timber. Having a line in your lane and in your matchup against Timber does make it a little bit easier because of the mana drain. Honestly, Timber is only kind of threatening in lane if he has mana,
Yeah.
but with Lion taking it away, it's not so bad. So in this matchup, like before like the lane even starts, I would definitely be considering one of two things. Firstly, your items. I mean, I don't mind. Like, I think as long as you bring out regen, like this one set of tango isn't so bad. Like I said, you're
Mhm.
rushing Wraith Blends, which is fine. Like you need to do it for sure. And Mango is in a weird spot right now where it's been nerfed a little bit. Where honestly, if you can get away with it, having a clarity over Mango can sometimes be better.
That's
Because
fair.
yeah, clarity you kind of just it's kind of a burst of mana, very similar to Mango. I mean, it's not always the case because sometimes it can get clipped off, but if you can get away with it, Clary is actually better now. I've seen a lot of top carry players doing it. But
Yeah.
besides the item build, I'm like there's a potential that you might not even get a point in Lucent Beam anyway because you have an understanding that if I want to contest a Timber, I'm gonna have to max out Lucent Beam, obviously, which you don't really want to do. And there's kind of an understanding that actually I don't need to put any points in Lucent Beam if I'm going to be jungling anyway. So either like you put 1 point in it, or like so you put loads of points in it, or no points at all. And we've talked about the bad side of putting loads of points into it. So there's a potential that actually you just max out W and E. Now that kind of comes down
You
to
don't think 1.1?
yeah. I mean the only reason why I say that is that like having 1 point in your Lucent Beam is not going to be a
To get free,
yeah
get the occasional
yeah
or like stun him when he's going
for
big in the
sure.
high and then
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for the purpose of like getting last hits on say range troops, it's useful. The only thing is that you're not going to be able to contest the Timbersaw whether you have any points in Lucent Beam anyway. And going max W and E allows you to jungle at level 4 if you need it. Whereas if you have 1 point in Lucent Beam, then you only have, say, 2 in the cleave and 1 in all, yada yada. So
Yeah.
there's a possibility. Like, I'm not saying you should definitely, skip it. I'm just saying the possibility is definitely there if you want to just kind of skip out the lane as quick as possible. But this is all good. You're taking the rune, obviously. Let's just sort of fast forward. So, I mean, this lane is pretty horrible. Lion itself isn't the strongest position 5, and he's the one sort of meant to be supporting you. And also not only that, but Dazzle is a bit of a pain in the ass, and so is Timber as well. So,
The Dazzle actually leaves and goes top, and
okay.
this ends up being a.
So I'm just gonna look at it. But this is fine. Like, so it's small things like, I mean, you need to be really going Lucent Beam. Sorry, Lunar Blessing, which you've done level 1. But just keep in mind that when it comes to like the first 1 or 2 waves, particularly if the Dazzle isn't there, the best thing you can do is, you talk about creep aggro before, against a melee hero. The best thing you can really do, like, is, let me just rewind it just slightly. It's a small thing, but it does make a difference in lanes where you might struggle to get easy CS. So if you don't have a hatchet or whatever. So let me just fast forward. Okay, so here. So in scenarios like this, where your creep wave is hitting 1 creep, so obviously this creep here is going to die first, the easiest thing you can do, instead of contesting the Timber sword for the last hit, if you just right-click him and then pull the aggro back, he simply won't be able to get it in time. Obviously, in this case, what you're trying to do is you're saying, okay, even though you do have slightly higher base damage, you're sort of saying that I'm just like a superior player, and I'm going to be able to right click this creep quicker than him. Whereas, like, if you just do the aggro trick, you're going to get it without him ever being possibly able to take it, kind of thing. And
Right. Are you recommending that I pull to the side or pull it back fully and the
so,
creeps will come under?
yeah, so it'd be
And
pulling to
then
the
when
side. Yeah, so pulling it to the side, because if you pull it like where you
Right.
were, obviously the creeps will go on the tower, and then it will end up pushing, which in itself isn't so bad, because I mean everyone I sort of teach normally has this kind of mindset where it's kind of like a couple of years old kind of mentality, where they're really scared of kind of pushing the wave. Now,
Yeah, it's like you can push the wave because like pulling is much easier than it
yeah,
is like
so
using
it's a lot easier, but also
side
there's
jab,
dual lanes as
and it
well.
lets you hit more, right?
Yeah. So there's a few
So
reasons. So, like, I mean, I don't know if you've been watching some of like the ESL one stuff at the moment, but like Blitz actually went into a massive detailed explanation about it actually. But regardless,
oh,
like,
great. I hope you put it in the video.
yeah. I mean, all he was saying basically though, so it's if you're a few things, particularly nowadays, like pushing the lane isn't so bad. Yes, you do need creep equilibrium, but you don't want to kind of keep it static for a few reasons. Firstly, like if you have a lane pushing into the enemy hero, you have the creep wave advantage, so you can trade better. Like they can't man up on you. If the
Yeah.
lane's pushed out as well, the support can pull, so you can deny. But also in dual lanes, creep equilibrium isn't as important. Whereas before, when you were playing a tri lane versus an off laner, you had to keep the creep equilibrium so as to not give any experience away for free. But in a dual lane where you can just kind of reset the lane with pulling, keep pushing the wave isn't so bad, particularly in matchups where you just kind of want to get as much as you can at the lane and go to the jungle, which in this case is the one you're looking at. So
Yeah.
don't worry too much. I mean, probably for the first wave, I probably wouldn't pull it into tower. If it was me, I would pull it to the side. But just keep in mind that you don't need to. What's more important is that you get the last hits, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like in scenarios like this, like the range creep one, you can't really do pull out creep aggro because the range creep will just hit you instead of running to you. So it's you can't really
Yeah.
miss that one. But the melee one, you definitely can. But also sometimes like having the right creep pull on the melee allows you to get the range as well in those scenarios. But this is fine. So I mean, honestly, like in if whenever I'm playing carry at the moment, I'm just trying to tell my support to kind of pull as much as possible, particularly in a lane I shouldn't win, which is the lane you're in right now. Like you're not expected to win this lane; you just want to get as much as you can out of it. So the best thing you can do really is to sort of tell your sport kind of pull every possibility. So like 115, 215, and make sure he gets it to do at the 115 mark. Because if you do it at the 145, then you miss a minute of pull because yada yada.
So,
Gone.
is your opinion pull even if the creep camp doesn't kill the entire wave? Just like
Yeah,
keep But
Yeah, I mean, what you can do is if you're going to do single pulls, you can try and connect it to the hard camp. Which is
yeah.
definitely something. I mean, it looks like Lion's about to pull anyway. But like I said, in this matchup, in lanes where you're expected to lose, the best thing you can do is pull because it does one of two things. Either it forces the offlaner to rotate to your support, which gives you a free lane to kind of CS uncontested, but also it denies their experience and it kind of makes the lane a lot more messy. Because when the lane is
Hmm.
kind of normal and like nothing really strange is happening, like they're going to eventually beat you because they have the better matchup. And whereas if you start making it complicated or complex or messy by pulling and stuff, then there's more opportunities for things to happen and for things to change. Because if you keep things normal, then the Timber will win the matchup. Um,
Hmm.
but if you start messing around with things, then it's a bit different. So same goes for here. Like you can like creep aggro here, but you didn't. But like so, Lion pulls here. This is fine. Like again, in scenarios like this, like when
Yes. So
gone.
so if you go back 10 seconds, right there to that interaction,
Sure. Oh, well, I went back too far.
where like you got that deny.
Mhm.
Okay,
Where
so
both
right
creeps are
here,
like dying. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so right here, what the deny he's going for? I have
Mhm.
4 creeps and he has.
Yeah.
And like one school of thought that I've seen on this is like if he goes for that deny, just like ignore the creep and you'll get like 6 hits on him,
Mhm.
and it's totally not worth it for him. Maybe that's not true because it's a timber, but like, what do you think here?
Yeah.
Should I be like, okay, fuck this deny and just hit him, or should I
So
like go for the creep?
yeah, normally I would agree with you. Hitting him is really good. The problem is that firstly he's a timber and he's already got reactive
Yeah,
armor, so we know that. And
yeah,
also Dazzle's sitting behind him. So like right now, it's very unlikely that you can get both CS. The only way you get both CS here is actually if you pull the creep aggro and take a tower hit to kill one of them quickly enough, so that you can kill the next one. Because both of these
right,
creeps are on very similar HP, yeah. So 223
yeah,
and 212. So the only way to kind of
yeah,
get both CS is by killing one really quickly and then being able to have the time to then hit the next one. So if you wanted to get both, you'd have to pull one of these creeps into tower aggro, let it hit once or twice, and then CS both of them. But that's a small thing, and because right now like you simply can't get both because attack speed kind of
yeah,
thing. But yeah, like hitting both is definitely fine if it was like a regular matchup. But it's a Timber, and he kind of wants you to hit him, as you see. Like this Timber like knows what he's doing. Like he's just kind of hitting you, like, and he wants. I mean, he's only level 1, so his reactive armor isn't that strong right now. Um, yeah. So this just goes back to kind of the region aspect to it. If you remember right at the start, before the lane even began, I
yeah. I
said
definitely
you only
should get
had
another set.
one region, yeah. So and I noticed that you bought 2 circlets, which obviously you want to be racing towards your wraith bands, but if you only have one set of tangos and you're going to be kind of playing this way in terms of like harassing the offlaner, like so it's kind of like I mean BSJ talks about it all the time where like your play has to match up with your items, otherwise it's not making
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So I don't actually necessarily think the one tango is potentially bad as long as you play incredibly defensive and just think, all right, okay, I'm just gonna max like get maybe let 3 or 4 like max my passives, leave no points and lucent beams and just jungle as quick as possible. But instead, like you're harassing the offlaner, like trying to get involved, trying to get him low, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But then again, you haven't bought any regen and it's not flying out to you because right now you have no mana, no HP, and
yeah,
Lions just use a salve, and you haven't like. So if you're going to play like this, you need to the first thing you need to do is bring out regen instantly, but instead you're like rushing towards a stash. So already, like right now, you are incredibly weak for the wave as well. Obviously, you get first blood, which is kind of good. Um, and it kind
yeah,
in that first blood almost kind of salvages a lot of your laning stage, to be honest, because if he doesn't die there, you don't get the kill. You're
and I
like
don't get the kills.
yeah, you get no
Yeah,
gold, like, and you're in a really bad situation, honestly. But not so bad. But okay, so here comes the regen. Like you're only bringing like 1 salve, which is okay, but then you got to think about like, okay, once that salve is used, I have no more regen. So
yeah,
still a little bit. So you get 2 points in Lucent Beam. So this,
yeah. So
uh,
the reason I went
gone.
two in Lucent, I felt like I felt like basically in this lane, this guy was like playing stupid and making himself like more harassable than he should be. Like
Mhm.
that whole situation with the Dazzle and the Timber, we had like 4 more creeps in them, and they just like ran at us
Mhm.
and died because of it. So I felt like, okay, I'll just grab two and Lucent Beam. I'm not gonna max it, but like if I grab 2 and Lucent Beam, I can keep making like decent things happen, and it also makes it easier to go for range creeps if he's
Yeah,
like
so I can understand what you're saying, and you're trying to adapt your playstyle to the game, which I think is always important. Like, you can't always play exactly the same way.
yeah,
However, sometimes you just got to realize that even if they are playing bad, which in this case kind of the Timber is, and you've notified it, but you've also kind of realized like sometimes you just simply can't go against a certain formula. Like, so yes, the Timber
that's fair.
can be bad, and like yes, you can beat him, but at the end of the day, like he's supposed to win and he's supposed to do well against you, kind of thing. So
Yeah,
just kind of playing and having, you don't, in some ways, like, it's kind of the whole idea of like, if you're smarter than him, you don't necessarily have to outplay him, because if you outthink him, then you don't really need to outclick him, if that makes sense. So you can just be like,
that's
okay,
fair.
maxing my passives, I'm going to do the smart thing and just like rotate the jungle, etc. So now it's a bit different because like Dazzle has rotated top after you killed him. But the problem is like he's Timbersaul's like level 3, and when he gets 2 points in reactive armor, like, it's very, very difficult because the max stacks double from 6 to 12. So it's, and plus all the
Yeah,
armor and regen. So like, the only way you can harass him is through magic damage. But if the Timber, is just like right clicking you and drawing creep waves,
he's got
he'll
his
he'll get
things.
all he'll get all yeah, and he's got Soul Ring as well. Like, so, all these different things just makes it very difficult. And now you've got 2 points in Lucent Beam. Like, now it almost delays the ability you can rotate to jungle. So I said to you before that you can probably jungle at like level 4 effectively as a Luna if you max W and E. But now you've got
Yeah,
2 points in Lucent Beam, you're going to be far off before you can get 2 points in Lunar, Blessing, and Moonglaive. So it just kind of delays the chance to go to jungle, um, which just kind of reduces your ability to, a flash farm, but also kind of have a potential game. Like, because obviously in this game, like, Timber is bad, and he isn't probably pressuring you as much as he could. But in, if you want to climb, and there'll be
yeah,
games
I do
where
want
like
like
you will be
games.
pressured and you'll need to go to jungle, and you won't be able to go jungle because you've got 2 points in Lucent Beam, and that's
Yeah,
where it makes bad. But obviously in this case, like, it's fine. Like, you're gonna get bit more free farm because Lion's gonna support you, and Timber's not supported by Dazzle. Um, so it, in this case, it kind of works out all right. But in, and obviously you do pressure him quite a bit, but like all the harassment you do put onto him is just gonna regen it back up anyway. So anyway, it's kind of a slight inefficient play, really.
yeah,
The thing that I would probably be thinking about doing is like, you have to think about, so right, Timber is down here by himself now, and so because of that, your top lane is going to be suffering as a result because they're playing against 3
yeah,
now. So the one thing that you could have done if you had the correct skill build is just tell your Lion to go try lane top, and what you can do is kind of push out a wave and then rotate to jungle, push out a wave, rotate to jungle.
that's fair.
And this is why it's kind of like, I mean, it's this one, me telling you this is difficult because it does rely on your support kind of cooperating in what you're saying, but at the same time, it's
Yeah,
probably the ideal play, and I think you should always kind of play in the most ideal scenario as possible. So, assume your enemies are going to make the right play, assume your teammates are going to do the right thing, and then adapt to when it doesn't. But because the best thing really for you to do is, like, you can't really contest this to Timber, but you can kind of relieve the pressure that he'll put on the tower eventually, whilst also kind
yeah.
of farming the jungle. And your job in this game is just to be as farmed as you can. That's kind of your job as a carry. Um,
Yeah, I think around level 5, I did tell Lion like, "Hey, mid needs your help, top needs your help.
yeah,
Like, you should
yeah.
leave." I have Claves at 5, I believe, but
Yeah,
I might have gone another point in E at 5. I don't know.
yeah.
I've been the most of the games I've played Luna recently have been I have like a fairly big friends list I
Mhm,
play with, like playing houses,
mhm.
just like in a lot.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm starting to think that like okay, I'm like one of the highest skilled players in this particular group of
Mhm,
friends, so I
mhm,
feel like it's given me a lot of bad habits. I've been
mhm.
playing against like Crusaders and Archons a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe my perception of like having 3 points in E makes you kind of like impossible for people to push you out of lane.
Mhm,
That perception may be like not
Yeah.
true.
So I mean, I
Because it's
think
like,
the strength, like if you do like playing Luna and you want to kind of get better with him, I think the strongest aspect of Luna really is her farming speed, and that comes from her
yeah,
passives. Like I mean, she kind of almost has like an inbuilt kind of like cleave mechanic, obviously with Moonglade. It's kind of the same way with Sven as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's just like a
It's like
ranged
any
aspect.
any hero that gets free battle fury, he goes into
Yeah,
fucking range.
exactly. Yeah. So like you want to kind of utilize that as much as possible. Obviously, like the last kind of 30 seconds, I like what you do in terms of like you're kind of pressuring the tower whenever or pressuring the lane whenever the Timbersaw isn't there, and that's the kind of mindset I want you to have like a little bit earlier, but also consistently, whether line is there or not, or Timber is there or not. Like if you just kind of keep this lane pushed out, there's no way that the Timber can either. Harass you or kind of pressure you, but also it relieves pressure on the tower as well because like a lot of top timber players, what they'll do is like they'll have like a support with them for the first level or two, and then when they're level 3, like they can kind of dominate a lane regardless of who they're playing against, and then put pressure
So
on the tier one.
what the dazzle did, but without the death, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So because so if I'm playing this Timber right now and I'm against you, like whether line is here or not, like I'm gonna just be right clicking you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whether you queue me or not, I'm gonna have so much stacks that I'm gonna force you out of lane. The one thing I can't,
Yeah,
if I was the Timber, the one thing I couldn't really deal with is if you kill my creep wave really quickly, and then I have this creep wave pushing into my tower because me as a Timber, I don't clear creep waves effectively unless I have high points in Q and W, but obviously I won't because I have max reactive armor. So the best
yeah.
play that you can make as a Luna is by pushing the wave out, going jungle, pushing the wave out, going jungle, like consistently. There'll come a time that
Mm.
you can't do that, but that's probably around like level 6 Timber. But by that time, you should be like level 7, level 8, and you won't even need to be worrying about this lane because you can be pressuring other lanes or farming the jungle effectively once you have like your Wraith Bands and your Treads. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, if you just think about like you put 2 points in Lucent Beams, you've been like spamming Lucent Beams on him, and yet like he even now he's like not threatened at all by it, and
Yeah.
so if he's not threatened by your Lucent Beams, then really you should be putting points in the passives instead. That to be kind of farming, making your farming speed faster. Um,
Yeah.
but overall, though, you haven't had a bad laning stage. It just feels like there's a few efficiency things that could be done better. But this is good though. Like I said, pushing out the wave, going jungle. This is all kind of good stuff. There'll
Yeah.
come a time where
That's
yeah, go on.
that's why my note on this game is like probably the pick. I think Luna's probably just a bad hero. It
Yeah,
becomes obvious in this game at a certain point when it's like, oh, my hero doesn't really buy Abyssal Blade. I guess we can't win this game because we can't kill Faceless. And it's like trying to
yeah. I
set some
mean,
sort of melee. Yeah,
like you can still win as Luna. I'm just like thinking like the things you can do better about it. Obviously, like so right now I think this is fine. Rotating to
yeah.
jungle, like I'm just thinking about. But yeah, like I mean, Luna in general I think is a weak hero. So you rotate back to the air to release some pressure. Timber doesn't want to pressure. This is all good. Like so all these rotations is good. You have Morbid Mask now as well, so you can jungle effectively. Overall, all the things that you can think about doing is yeah. I mean, like I think Luna at the moment isn't the strongest carry hero. But
Yeah.
if you were to play him, you just need to kind of keep the mindset of okay, right, what do I like? What does my hero do? It's like you have a really quick farming speed, so you can get to Mask of Madness, Manta, BKB at a very strong, faster timing. And so if you're worrying, okay, like how do I beat Void as a Luna, then the best thing you can do is that you're gonna be out farming him
Oh,
because
farming.
yeah, so looks like he's building a Mask of Madness as well, like maybe a Battle Fury. So you're gonna have like an item above him. So the point that where you just take a team fight and he can't threaten you because you're like an item ahead of him. Um, but
Yeah,
go on.
he ends up just going Mask of Madness MKB in this
Mhm.
game. It's
Yeah,
kind
risky.
of weird.
Yeah, risky for sure.
I mean, he gets the kills to pay it off.
Yeah. So like your job really like for the first 10 minutes I think you've done like well. I mean your top net worth, like you've done what you need to do done. Of course it could have been like slightly more efficient. The one thing that will
Yeah, I could
definitely
have 5
for sure.
instead of 40.
The thing that definitely needs to change, however, is when a support start rotating to Timber's lane because whenever I see this like lich bottom is the moment that I know I can start pressuring top. So you're
Mm.
happily like farming the jungle, which is fine. This tower is eventually going to fall. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind as a carry player is that whenever there's rotation from supports, that you can rotate to the offlaner and do the exactly same thing and just trade. because now Lich is bottom. If you just sit and jungle, yes, it's kind of good for the short term in terms of your kind of accelerating your farm in the jungle. What will eventually happen is that this tower will fall and your team won't get a trade as a result of it. So in the long term, like your map presence as a team will be reduced. And
Yeah.
so the only way that you
So
can go on.
So I agree with you, but it seems weird right here for me to be like, I should go top lane, like particularly that I should TP there. So I think
Hmm.
TPing is wrong because like I don't know if the supports of TP to bottom or they walk. But like let's say I go
Hmm.
top. So an easy kill condition on me is like Sunstrike and Chrono, right? Like
Hmm.
I get hit like 4 times, he bashes maybe once or twice,
Hmm.
Sunstrike, I'm dead. And at any time, like, Void could just Chrono me. Uh, I get sunstriked, and then he could just like walk away and not give a shit about my brewmaster, or like he could do
Yeah.
that and not die, right? Or he could like do that to either two of them if I'm there. I don't know, but like, or Invoker can run up here, tornado us, we get chrono, meteored, etc. Right? Like maybe that's too defensive minded. Maybe I
Hmm.
need to think like I need to force those guys to rotate, be looking for it, and then avoid that happening to me.
Yeah,
But like,
that is the
it seems
mindset.
weird for me to TP into a kill condition, right?
Yeah,
Or like run at a condition, which
for
is
sure.
like
I can understand like your hesitation towards it. The one thing you have to keep in mind though is that you like in particularly. I mean, it's more maybe more so in competitive, but I mean Dota is still Dota and whether it's competitive or not, and it's all about
yeah.
kind of forcing reactions basically. Like because right now like Timber's pressuring your tower, and
Yeah.
there's no reaction from your team. Now by reaction I don't mean we should all TP down there and try and kill Timber. That's not the right play. Like the right play really is kind of putting pressure onto this tier one, because this will do one of
Yeah.
two things: either, like you said, Invoker will rotate top, or Timber will as well, and then that way it relieves pressure. The one thing you can't really do though is that when like an enemy player or enemy team starts making rotations or making plays, and you don't respond to it. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, like I said, you farming jungle like is good in the short term, and you in some ways you have to balance whether like is the short term gain better than the late game investment. Now that's comes down to the like situational. I think in this game, worst case scenario, like UTB top, yeah, and you worry about okay maybe Void comes in, Invoker like does all his crap whatever. If they then rotate and respond to you pressuring top, then mid is open for pressure as well. So it's all kind of you need to be being aggressive, and then if those things occur, like Void responds, then you just need to play according to what's in front of you, kind of thing. Um,
That's fair.
but at the same time, like I'm not saying this is bad necessarily. I'm just saying that you need to kind of keep in mind the possibilities of other things. Like um, you know, you have a catapult in the top lane. Void isn't there at the moment, so there should be less resistance in the top tower anyway. The thing is that particularly in like the first tower that will always fall in most games will be the safe lane
Safe.
of either side. The problem happens though is that if Timber takes his tower and then you don't pressure or at least try and take this tower, what will end up happening is that the next play that you want to be making is the enemy safe lane tower. But as we said before, Timber isn't gonna like you can't really deal with this Timber. So what happens
Yeah,
when Timber
he's gonna be sitting behind
yeah,
tier
so
two.
so
Yeah.
what happens if Timber takes his tower and then TB's top? Then you have really no play left to make
Right.
in the early game, and that's why you need to be making this play whilst Timber is pressuring your tier one, because either he TP's top and then you can defend bot, or you take top while he takes bot, and then at least you would then have a mirroring of the map kind of thing.
Right.
But not doing either makes it a little bit bad. Like Wind Ranger's going to rotate bot, but he's already lost it, and he's not going to be able to pressure Timber anyway because he's a Timber. Um, and now like Void can stay top and be by himself kind of thing. So it's this one of those kind of things which makes it awkward. Like yes, you're top net worth because you've been jungling, but whether that's like the right play or not is a different story, Because right now, like now the map kind of gets restricted, which isn't necessarily bad for your game because you're the position one, but it will be restricted for the rest of your team, so there's less farm elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just something to think about. So like Void use Chrono now, like so definitely I'd be thinking the next play I want to be making is onto this Void, or at least onto his area of the map.
Yeah, I think I do walk up here
Yeah,
after
so
this.
we'll see.
Maybe I should ignore this camp and walk up
No,
mid
no,
then.
no, it's fine. Like, it's fine.
No, okay, I walked
Yeah.
away. Hmm.
So I mean, like I said, Luna is a like incredibly fast farmer. So like if you want to just farm until mana, like that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you can relieve a lot of pressure on the map with your mana illusions because of the glaives. You defending this is fine as well because like the tier 1 Timber can take, but tier 2 he's gonna really struggle against. Particularly you're level 12 now, so you're pretty strong. But one thing that you need to be worried about
Yeah,
is
here I
gone.
think I die.
Yeah.
I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, this creep wave is particularly greedy. I probably should not do this. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I either like escape barely with my life or like lose it.
So I mean, whether you die or not isn't necessarily
It's
like
yeah,
yeah, it's just
wrong.
wrong. Because
Exactly.
like I
Yeah,
said, the
it's
initial
one
play,
too long.
yeah, the initial play is fine because like I don't know how much you pay attention, but you know like BSJ's understanding of like the dead lane. I don't know if you've so
Yeah,
but put simply like it's you should really only be in your sort of safe lane if it is to relieve pressure, because if you like before this tier 1 tower dies, let's say if the offlaner isn't a Timbersaw, it's someone else. You have to look at it from the perspective of the enemy team. The enemy team, as we've talked about before, is that the most first tower that they want to die off to fall is the enemy's safe lane. Yeah. So for the offlaners, they want to take your tower here, but at the same time, you're the highest net worth on your team, so you're also the highest kill threat or the highest, the biggest bounty they want to kill. So
yeah,
if two of their objectives are in the same place, i.e., you
yeah,
and the tower, they're gonna send people. If they're good players, they're gonna send players down to you. So you don't want to be here unless it is to relieve pressure. Now the first one or two waves down at the tier 2 is fine, but now being here makes it a bit worse. Like you get the kill and it's all fine, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's correct, if that makes sense, And it's like, so that's
yep.
why I want you to be particularly after Void has used Chrono, like to be playing the top part of the map. Void is level 9 and you're level 12. Like, if you just walk top into his lane, Void cannot contest you, particularly not that he
Yeah,
has
I just
Chrono.
start hitting it.
You just start hitting him and he just leaves, and then you take his tower or force reactions or whatever. Um, but so it's just things like that to keep in mind. Like, you want to be utilizing the net worth and the strength of your hero. And that's why you want to be kind of keeping it in your mind, obviously. But obviously, like you look like you're very farmed and you're like working towards your Manta, which is fine as well. It looks like you want to kind of like stay in top, but I feel like and tell me if I'm wrong, but the kind of mindset is that like you see your offlaner in the off lane and you just don't want to join him. Like that's the kind of mindset I get. And the kind of understanding is that like if your offlaner is top, you don't need to just necessarily be on the opposite side of the map of him. Like you can be with him to take objectives. And this is more to the point of like maybe 2 or 3 minutes ago when Void didn't have Chrono. It's just something to think about, because like grouping up with your team. Like I mean, if you like, I know I keep going back to competitive games, but like the speed at which competitive games are played is so much faster than pub games. Like,
Oh yeah,
like at like 6-7 minutes, people are rotating mid, top, like bot, like, and carry players are moving elsewhere. Whereas like in pub games, and even in my pub games, sometimes like there's this staticness where like nothing happens for like the first 15 minutes. Like everyone stays in their lane and they just right click clips and stuff. But
yeah, yeah.
you just don't
I've played
go.
I played me and my friends, we stacked for the TI qualifiers
Mhm.
last year. And we played against in round 2 it was like Moon Meander and like Dubu and like
Mhm.
2 other pros, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, just because like, I mean I'm the same.
I
Like
dig you on what the speed
yeah,
difference is.
I mean, I'm not even saying like it's you. I mean, I remember coming up against like playing against OG Seed or whatever, and like I felt like they were playing a different game to me. Like the
Oh yeah,
rotations, it's like they're not playing dot, they're playing something else, and it's just the kind of the speed at which they do things, the plays they make. It's like always on the move kind of thing.
That's exactly. If you want, I'll link you a post I made on True Dota about this, the subreddit. I'll link you. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah,
It feels like, oh, I've never played this video game before.
yeah,
It's
that's
like
what
I
it's
know what
like.
all my buttons do, and I suddenly feel like I have no like, what
Yeah,
is this? Like,
exactly.
anyways,
But
um,
yeah, so and then like So basically, the kind of the briefest understanding is that I kind of want you to be playing top. Like whether you are
Yeah,
pushing this lane or not, there's still a jungle farm for you to take, which is like this triangle, which is like really nice. And the problem is like when you put yourself in this position, not only is it bad for a few reasons, like it's bad because like this engagement here, like whether you don't die or what, it's just like this is the kind of pressure you don't really want to be dealing as a carry early on. Like, so if you're in this offlane, like fights won't happen in this triangle, not that much. Whereas a lot of fights will
yeah,
happen around this area, so you don't really want to be there. But not only that, but if you're in this triangle and even like this hard camp here as well, once the carry like leaves or goes elsewhere, like you can take the tower and then you're putting pressure on this lane. But the like if you're here, then you're forced to think, oh, should I TP or like, oh, is it a bad TP? But if you're already here, you don't need TP. You just walk up. Um,
yeah,
the one thing, like, the one caveat is that obviously Radiant Ancients isn't there, which that's why I love playing Dire because you can play this side of the
yeah,
map and have the Ancients still here as well as being the part of the map you want to be at. But at the same time, it's still important to play the right part of the map. And yes, you maybe someone else will be taking Ancients and stuff, but in some ways that's not your objective. Like that's not your role. Your role really is to get the most amount of farm, but also to be pressuring lanes when you can. But right here, you can't pressure lanes. All you're doing is relieving pressure once in a while. But it
yeah.
just gives the opportunity for them to kill you. And
Okay.
so just keep that in mind. Um,
Yeah,
but like I
I
said,
think that is basically going to be probably why I had a lower impact. I think your thesis is like correct for like the entirety of
yeah,
the game.
like I mean,
It's
you
like
have you have the highest net worth, but like it feels that you're not really doing too much. I mean, you can carry on, but I know there's a few other games you want me to look at as well. It just
yeah,
feels
yeah.
that like,
Maybe
go on, sure,
go like 4 or 8 times speed, and we'll just
sure,
watch the rest through it
sure,
very quickly.
sure.
Yeah,
But like I said, I don't mind you farming like until your mana because it makes a big difference on how you play the hero. Um, but just keep in mind as well that like it's already so like you've got farm, which is good, yeah. But you also got to think
mhm,
about like the amount of farm that the Invoker, the Timbersaw, and the Void were able to get because you're not pressuring this right part of the map as well. Like it looks
yeah,
like Invoker already had Ags at like 17 minutes and Midas. Like so, it's like if none of his towers, like if you look at it from the perspective of this Evoker, like he has his mid tower up, he has his safe lane tower up, and then his off lane has also taken the enemy safe one. Like he doesn't feel threatened at all. Like he's able to just go Midas and farm up, and like now he's been towards a BKB. Whereas, and in some ways, that's not necessarily all your fault, but in some ways, it is some partly your fault because
yeah.
you're
I
here
could have walked top on the Void
exactly,
Blade and have
and so
there
like
would have been pressure.
exactly,
Yeah,
because if you think about it, like once you take the enemy safe lane tower, then you look towards mid, But if you're not doing it, then this Evoker has a free game, and so and then it just makes his life easier as you want to be pressuring these heroes. So
yeah,
that's just something to think about, and that's you have to kind of understand as a carry that not only are you solely responsible for your own farm, but also in reducing the farm of others, not through necessarily through ganking or through killing them, but just by playing and forcing lanes in, and relieving or creating pressure and stuff.
yeah,
Um, but you go BKB
yeah,
here. I think like BKB is probably necessary, just simply because of the Timber and the Invoker. I mean, Sunstrike is probably the large amount of damage, which is obviously pure damage. But I think BKB is fine. It works well with Luna anyway. Um, but they just kind of feel like you just hit like I mean maybe that's the nature of Luna as well. It's just kind of right clicking creeps, but you just keep that in mind. Like, but you are like a lot higher than the Void. Let's just have a look. These fights here, but it also comes down to how where these fights are taken as well. So in scenarios like this, you're gonna get Chronos. You're gonna be fine,
okay.
but
Sun's
yeah, but what I'm just saying, like in terms of because lanes, it's another thing as well. Like if the longer it takes to take this 2-on tower, the harder it is to take it as well. It's kind of like as if you're
yeah.
playing against a Tinker as well. Like once Tinker gets travels, like he's going to be defending every tower. But if you can kill towers before that, it's good. But and it's a small thing, but I don't mean to keep going on and on and on about it. But with this
No, no,
tower
that's
up,
what matters.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the point of them keeping this tower up means now they can take fights in this triangle, and then if this fight goes well for them and they kill you and kill whoever, then they can rotate to the mid because it's right next to them. You know, if you
Yep.
fought fights top near their tier one, the waves pushed in. You know, there's not easy objectives to take straight from that. You know, whereas if objectives aren't taken, then they can just rotate into your jungle and fight you from there. You know, in this case, it doesn't work out. You know, Void doesn't kill you, but it's it's close. You know. It's
Yeah.
just things to think about for sure. Um, but
Yeah. Void ends up dying. That's cool.
yeah, so he ends up dying. Obviously,
Right.
like it looks
So
like
right
gone.
here, my perspective is like I should probably start running bottom because I don't think I can go mid. Like they're all still around there as
Hmm.
they're backing off of that fight. I'm kind of low, but I can like jungle my way to bottom. I can maybe pressure that tower. But like the thing is, I don't know. Pressuring that tower sucks. It's like the most useless
Yeah,
tower on
you
the map.
don't want to, and that's the whole idea of playing the right part of the map. You know, you don't really want to be pressuring
Yeah.
this tower because like if you take it, like it doesn't do anything. You know, like you don't get any security over Roche. You don't get really anything. You know, I mean, you force a reaction from the Invoker. Looks like Invoker's TPing as well. And depending on how fast this Invoker in, you might be dying as well. And that's just kind of the aspect, you know, and yet you are going to get caught and you are going to die. So that's just kind of, it's not necessarily like anything other than you not needing to play that part of the map, you know, like
Yeah.
because like you've said it yourself, like you don't need this tower. If you take it, no one really cares. And not only that, but every dire hero, if they see you here by themselves, they're going to TP because you have no way of kind of getting out. Like TPing to
Yeah.
the out to the shrine is only like 6 seconds. There's no T1 tower because they took it obviously. Like they see you here, they're gonna just ping you and say kill him, and that's exactly what they
Yeah.
did. Like you play top, and it's a lot more difficult because you have you have a TB support from the tier one tower. Like it's not as far out. Like if you run from here to here, it's nowhere near as long as from here all the way to the tier two. You know, um, so things like
Yeah.
that, and that's just kind of like just having the strategy and the mindset. You know, and you've only died once, but when you play heroes like Luna, where it's kind of like dying on an alchemist in the sense that like your top net
Yeah.
worth,
Or dying on
dying
anti-mage. It's like
once, yeah, or
yeah.
Animage. Animage is
Yeah.
actually a lot better example because Animage like is so important in terms of pressuring lanes. Once you kill him once, then you can kind of have complete map control and kind of similar to you because you have mana and you can kind of pressure 2 lanes at once. But once they kill you, not only like it's so bad, like more so than just normally. And the one thing that I'd say that would definitely you should be thinking about right now is that now you have BKB, I'd be looking to just be like grouping up as 5. Like you've been farming a lot now, like you've got you got BKB. Now's the time you just want to be grouping with your team. But obviously, like you're gonna be dying here. Like this obviously causes like more deaths as well. But if we fast
I
forward,
mean,
go
I
on,
don't know.
sure.
I don't know if we can group on them though. Like, so this Timber's really farmed, and he's got like pipe and shit like that. My Brewmaster does not have such items, but moreover, they have this like Chrono eggs, Chrono Cataclysm thing. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for sure.
we actually have a response to that.
The thing, the thing is that I mean, before you died and they took this tower, like you were only like 1,000. Like if we go right back before you actually died, you were 1,000 gold down.
Yeah.
Even lower than that. Like what is it like here or so? Like you like less than 1,000, obviously. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, like you can get chronoed and just invoke a sunstrike and stuff, but really there's no other play like in terms of like how you win as a Luna. You farm
Okay.
fast and then you group with your team with the items that you've kind of accumulated. Like you're like 4,000 gold ahead of this in this void, and if you can't fight them now, there's no time that you're going to be able to fight them, kind of thing. So you have to make the play
Okay.
basically. I mean, I understand it's not ideal, but there's no other there's no other thing else you can do really. Like you're not gonna take it late because you're playing against a void invoker, and you're not gonna split push them because you're not a hero that can do that. You're not like an animation. You're not going to split push them to death,
Yeah.
So I can understand, but that also it's not necessarily that the play is bad. It's the things that led up to it that was bad. Like in terms of not
Yep.
pressuring the map. Like yada yada yada, like all these different things that led up to it. But if all things like say you had a competitive team play this matchup, like in terms of both sides of the team, they'd end up
Hmm.
like be getting maybe Manta and BKB on Luna, and they'd be looking to go straight away because
Okay.
there's no other play that you can do. Um, Obviously, yes, if you had like a defensive support like a Wyvern or an SD, then it would make things so much easier because you could just siege the towers, and then if they go on you, they just disrupt you, and then you just win the team fight by counter initiating. But other than that, there's not
Okay.
really much else you can do. Like Luna's like a really fast farmer, and then he's a good team fighter, and you have to play to his strengths, kind of thing. There's not other things you can do, you know.
That's fair. I really want to look at both of these other games.
Sure.
Is it okay if I
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
PayPal you
for sure.
$7 so we can go another round? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't
sure.
want to take advantage of your generosity. I know you are willing to go over time, but
No,
yeah.
no. So
So I'll
I
send
think,
another $7.
uh,
Game 2 and 3 real
sure.
quick.
Yeah, sure, sure. We'll go through. No,
As long as you have the time
yeah,
and
yeah,
not
I got some.
going.
No, 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 it's all good. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I think Luna can be good. I think she's not particularly great. I don't even know her exact win rate at the moment in like Divine Immortal games and stuff. But she's
Oh, it's high, but she's played as a support. They're
yeah,
playing
that's
support.
probably
I
what it
tried
is.
looking for like a carry player picking Luna on like Dota 2
It's
Pro
not
Tracker. Like
really
there's
happens.
nobody
No one
picking.
picks it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think she can be good, but like I said, when you have the kind of mindset of it's like she has to be. Like I said, in that kind of game, there's nothing else you could have done. Um,
Yeah.
but
So the second game here is I win, but I feel